Hey everybody, David Paul with you here in the KHOU 11 Weather Center in Houston, Texas with your Monday evening tropical update for the Atlantic Basin. And it is still Sam who is really the only game in town right now, still a major hurricane. But Sam has gone through a little bit of a rough patch, weakened a little bit, and I think the best news is that it is appearing most likely that Sam will not directly impact the islands of the Lesser Antilles and miss the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. That is wonderful news. We'll take a close look at that and where he is going to end up. I think Halifax, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, St. John's, you may end up having impacts in a week or so from Sam. And there are two other waves out there that are looking interesting as well. So where are we? 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 named storms so far this season, 7 hurricanes, 4 majors. Sam, Cat 4 tied with Ida for the strongest so far this season. So in an average year, we get 14. We're at 19 now. We normally get 7 named hurricanes in an entire average season. We're at 7 now. We've got a good, 38, 40% of the season left to go. We normally have 3 majors. We've now had 4 majors. So we've been very busy above normal, and we're going to end up that way. And here's Sam. So Sam has weakened a little bit. It did go Cat 4 over the weekend, but now winds in Sam are down to 120 miles an hour. That's great. It's Cat 3. It's moving northwest at 9. So this has been a slow mover and now still is a relatively slow moving hurricane. Pressure's at 957 millibars, so that's interesting. So on Sunday, Sam bottomed out at 937 millibars. So the lower that number goes, the more intense the low pressure center you've got, and the stronger the system, and you get the stronger the winds, the lower that number goes. So again, Sunday evening, about 24 hours ago, we had a minimal central pressure of 937. That's as low as the storm has been. Now today, the storm's gone as high as 966 millibars. So it really came up almost 30 millibars during a 24-hour period. Now, as we headed late into the afternoon, pressures began to drop again. So we've dropped from 966, now we're sitting at 957. We've dropped a good 9 millibars. Will that trend continue? Will the storm begin to re-strengthen? It's questionable. It looks like the storm is going through an eyewall replacement cycle. We had a nice clear eye pop up over the weekend, and then it's gotten a little ragged. But that is what it looks like when you go through an eyewall replacement cycle. The eyewall spreads out, and then it takes a while for it to reform an inner core. And that may be what we're seeing right here on the last frame. We see the eye form as we head into Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The eye tightens up and then it vanishes. And then right there it may be trying to reform. So that may be the pressures beginning to drop again. So right now we're at Cat 3, winds between 111 and 129 miles an hour. Winds are at 120, so we're right in the middle of Cat 3, moving northwest at 9. That's where we stand right now with Sam. Closer look. This is a loop over the last 12 hours. The eye wall's gotten it was looking nice yesterday evening, this morning, and then things have really gotten a little ragged, but we may begin to see another central core begin to develop here. The thing is, it's difficult when these storms go through these eyewall replacement cycle. It's difficult to get that strength to come right back and that intensity to redevelop. When you see a storm weaken, like we've seen the pressure drop 30 millibars in a 24-hour period over the weekend or since the weekend, think of it as an ice skater when they're spinning most rapidly. They've got their arms tucked in. You've got a very tight center. That's what allows the skater or the storm to spin faster. You pull that center in tightly. It conserves angular momentum. It's called the conservation of angular momentum. So when that ice skater pulls in their arms, that's when they spin super fast. When their arms come out, they slow down. And that's kind of what's happened over the last 12 hours. The arms of Sam have kind of spread out a little bit. They've opened up, and that's allowed the pressures to rise and the storm's winds to weaken from Cat 4 back down to Cat 3. And the question is, will it be able to pull its arms in again and spin faster and drop those pressures again? That remains to be seen. But there may be a couple of factors that are working against its re-strengthening. Boy, looking from visible, that's just a good-looking hurricane. This is an 18-hour loop, so we go from sunrise to sunset. Very symmetrical, very buzzsaw look to this. I see outflow on the visible satellite there. You can really see the outflow more clearly when we go to the water vapor. This helps us see the wind flow and moisture levels in clouds at the upper levels of the atmosphere. Look at the outflow up at the top of this storm. Outflow. Outflow. Outflow right there. Really looking good. So these systems, they grab heat energy off the surface of the ocean. That energy goes into the storm. It's burned as fuel, if you will. It releases its latent heat and then rises to the top, and then out it comes. It is a cycle. It's like an engine. You have intake through the air intake. It burns through the engine. The pistons fire, and then that exhaust goes out the top. You've got to have good exhaust at the top to get a storm to intensify like this one has. So we've got very good looking outflow here. But you know, it's not perfect. And I've been kind of looking at this storm carefully and looking at the upper level winds. Here's the winds at 250. And although it is in general just kind of moving along with the flow in here, there's a little bit of southwesterly shear, a little bit. But to get a storm to intensify to Cat 3, Cat 4, everything really has got to be just right. So this little bit of shear coming in from the southwest may be just enough to kind of knock it off that perfection with that rotation and those skaters' arms pulled in so tight. Maybe it's tilted just a little bit. Trying to get some northerly shear in here as well, but that's just kind of being blocked off by the core around that storm. And there is a little dry air out here. You can see that on water vapor. See the orange in there? There's some dry air, but I don't see it being, ingested into the storm right now. But something tilted it just a little bit. Something knocked it off kilter just a hair to weaken it, a good 30 millibars. That's a significant rise in pressure. So something's going on, and I'm suspicious there's another factor in play here that may keep this from firing back up to Cat 4. So we look at the sea surface temperatures, and this is the skin temperature of the water, just right at the upper levels. And there's plenty of warm water at first glance. 84-degree water around the storm, 85, 87 south to its southwest, 87 there. So it looks like there's plenty of warm water. But on further study, maybe there's a little problem here. So as these storms move along, especially these major hurricanes, and especially these slow movers, they will upwell water from deep beneath the surface of the ocean. And down there beneath the surface of the ocean, the water temperature can be much cooler. So that's why we look at this graphic, which is the ocean heat content. It gives us an idea of how deep down that warm water goes. Now, it's moving into an area where it's moderately deep. It's not like it is here in the Caribbean. That's very deep warm water out there. But because this is a slow moving system, it's staying over the same area a little bit longer than a faster moving storm would. And so it's having a little more time to upwell cooler water. And you can see how this impacts the ocean heat content. You can see the track that the storm is leaving, the trail in the ocean. That's the cooler upwelled water. In fact, there's a real surge of it right here as the storm was only moving at about 6, 7, 8 miles an hour over the weekend at one point. And so it really upwelled a lot of cool water up underneath the storm. That may be also a little player in why it has not continued to intensify and why it's actually gotten knocked down a category. And you can see how these scars that these storms leave in the ocean heat content can last for a long time. Look at the trail here. That's Larry. That is Hurricane Larry. That's the track that major Hurricane Larry made right across the center of the Atlantic. And to this day, we're a week and a half from Larry. Larry was out here the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th of the month, September. So 20 days ago, we can still see the scar in the ocean heat content map that Hurricane Larry left. That's how significant the upwelling is, and that trail can be seen to this day. So that's also a factor. It's a slow mover. It's pulling up some cool water from underneath the ocean, and that may be inhibiting it and keeping it and helping it to be knocked down a category from a 4 to a 3. Forecast track from the Hurricane Center. So the best news is that this stays well away from the islands of the Caribbean. Great news for you guys. You'll see increased surf, of course, north breeze, but I think that's about it. Now, Bermuda, it's going to get close to you guys. We'll take a closer look at that in here in just a moment. Spaghetti plots, very well concentrated, 200 miles away from the islands. Good. This was my big concern. I'm very glad that this is not going to be a player for you for direct impact. That's the last thing we need. For Bermuda, most of the spaghetti plots are just east of the island of Bermuda, but this is one you need to pay close attention to. Clearly, it's going to be a close call with Bermuda. At that point, it may be Cat 3, Cat 2. Latest track has winds at about 115 miles an hour, latest intensity forecast, as it grazes by Bermuda right in here. So Bermuda, one you still need to watch, and we'll continue to keep you posted up there. But look at where this ends up. Nova Scotia, Halifax, St. John's, Newfoundland. You may be directly impacted by this. One more look at the islands here. Barbuda, British Virgin Islands, Anguilla, Antigua. Great news. You're most likely not going to see any type of tropical storm or hurricane force winds. This is the chance of seeing that. And in the islands here, you're in the 10% chance. And I think even that is overdone. Good. Global models, the American in yellow, the European in red, in very good agreement that it misses the islands. It's going to be a close call with Bermuda. The American model is a little bit further and a little bit ahead of the European. The European is going to take a little closer track, but it looks like it's going to miss a direct hit as well. There it goes, by Bermuda. And then the GFS, the American model, has a decaying but still significant tropical system impacting Newfoundland, St. John's, Sunday afternoon. You begin to feel the impact Saturday, and going into Sunday you would have impacts there. You would be on the weak side of a decaying tropical system, but you would have impacts, wind and rain and whatnot. The European is a little slower, but it also is close enough to give you guys at least a north breeze. And then it's a little bit further off to the east from Newfoundland. So that's the long range. This is going into Monday. So this is a week out, Sunday, Monday. Halifax, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, you would see at least some ancillary impacts from a decaying but still significant tropical system into the weekend. So that is Sam. There is a spot here north of Bermuda, east of Bermuda, with a 60% chance for development. Models are really not picking up on this, so I'm going to put that on the back burner. But these two spots, wave coming off Africa, a wave already out over the open Atlantic, models are picking up on these two. Both have a 90% chance for development, so says the Hurricane Center. So let's take a look at the global models on these two. Just to set your bearings, here's the west coast of Africa, Cape Verde Islands. That is Sam. There's San Juan, Puerto Rico. So we put this in motion. So we got two waves, one here, one here. This is actually fairly interesting. So the American model develops two low pressure areas from both the systems. That's a tropical storm at least going into Thursday, says the American model. The European maybe tries to close off a low here, open wave here. That's going into Thursday of this week, so in three days' time. We go further out in time, and this is interesting. It's a little complicated, but take a look. So the American model in yellow, weak system here, stronger system here. It has two distinct systems. That's the American model. European model, let me change the color here. So European, two low pressure systems closer to each other. So of course, the first thing that pops into my head is, are we going to have the Fujiwara effect here? Now, we're forecasting the path of two different systems, neither of whom exist at this point, and we're looking at a computer model almost a week out, and we're going to speculate that maybe we could have a Fujiwara effect here. So obviously this is out in the ether, but it's also out in the open ocean, which is fine with me. As long as this all takes place in the open ocean, I'm good. Nobody getting really directly impacted. But look at how these two, the European has them beginning to interact, and watch how we go forward in time. American model begins to fizzle it out. One gets absorbed by the other. So that's possible. That's a possible outcome from the Euro. Notice how the American fizzles this one, barely a closed low, and has an open wave in the first one here. It doesn't make it to the islands. But again, computer model forecasting is two storms that don't even exist yet. Tremendous amount of uncertainty. So we're just going to keep an eye and see what forms out here, and then we'll take that one day at a time. Interesting evening out there. Questions, comments, leave them below. Hit me up on social. We'll see you tomorrow for another update.